I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to be a mom, just because I hadn't had a stable or a long-term relationship or any of that. And finally, in my late 30s, decided I was going to just do it myself. That's when Lauren was born, and my comment to my friends was, when I get pregnant, this isn't an accident, this is on purpose. So I just want everyone to know that ahead of time. And then I did get pregnant almost right away. And Lauren's dad and I were not intending to stay together. And we sort of, sometimes I think when you're pregnant, think maybe you'll, magically have this happen. And then we realized no, and thankfully he realized it wasn't a good thing to do. And we were together up till as friends or as boyfriend girlfriend, sort of, until Lauren was born. And then he sort of went his own way. And then when she was about 20 months old, he chose to come back into her life much more actively. And then he was getting married, and it was important to him. And it's been great because then Lauren's had her dad in her life, and she's had me in her life all the way through. I was honored when Lauren was married that she asked me to walk down the aisle because I've been her one consistent parent, and that's what's been sort of the frame for my life, is I really wanted to be a real strong but to be a strong but also a spontaneous mom, to not have everything set out for my children, to try to figure out as I go. And so it's single mom to Lauren for 7 years, and then Eric and I got married and intended to have children right away, and I had lost 2 pregnancies before Lauren, and I lost 3 right away, which was a really hard time in my life. And then we really weren't sure what we were going to do, and so we thought maybe IVF, and then realized that was just more chances, and I couldn't take any more losses. And so by this point, the internet was more active, and I was able to search and find our adoption agency. And we realized that even though I was in my 40s by this point, that we could still adopt. And that was so exciting. My husband was younger than me. They didn't matter. I was older mom, didn't matter, because the birth mom or the expectant mom would be that she would know who she was with. And so we loved the idea of openness. And so my son Dylan, who's 17, was born 9 months, almost to the day from when we started to wait for him. And then when he was about 6, we decided it was time. I decided it was time for one more child. Then he decided it was okay, and it took my husband a little bit longer. And then 2 years, almost 3 years later, Alexis was born. At that point, I really felt like our family was complete. We were lucky that all 3 of them have very open relationships with the other members of their family. We have a big extended family, which made for a very interesting wedding. Lauren got married because all these people are trying to figure out who was related to whom. What I found in the process of being a mom was that you can, as a mom, love your children unconditionally, and you can be a staunch feminist but still be feminine, and you can allow your children to talk and have their way but still guide them. And when each of them were born, I wrote out something to them, what I promised them, and it was always about how I would try to give them the support they needed, but not to set their own way for them. And then all those aspects of children's lives that mean a lot. And as I see their personalities develop, I really know how that was been successful. They don't follow exactly what I think. And my story about that is that when you raise your children hoping that they have opinions, they will. Those opinions aren't always the ones you want them to have. I think that then too, with them being really far apart in age, people worry that they won't be close, and how does that work? And well, you have to be willing to go out and play in the slip and slide when you're the oldest, or color eggs, or the youngest needs to be ready to go and be grown up kind of at her sister's wedding, and you have to kind of be flexible enough. Right?
Well, I'm the oldest, and I've always felt, very maternal towards my siblings and seen them all grown up. So I get to spend most of my time with my brother and Alexis, and I think that's pretty cool. Me and my mom are really close, and I hear, other people who don't get along with their mom or their dad, and I feel lucky that I do, and that I pretty much get along with my sister and my brother, even though we're so far apart in age. I've got to see them, grow up, and from birth, and I remember everything along the way, and I think that's pretty cool. It's for my mom, and she's always open and honest, and doesn't keep things inside. She's always been a friend and a parent, not just one. You know, some parents are very strict, and she was strict at one point where I thought she was very strict, you know, in our difficult phase, which was what, seventh grade or so. It was the only time we really didn't see eye to eye. I thought, you know, she was just out to get me. But luckily that was the only time, I think, in my whole life that I felt like my mom doesn't get me. You know, every other step of the way, you know, growing up and then in my adulthood, I've been very close with her. And so it's cool because I don't think a lot of other families have that.
Dad, she was trying to explain to her dad there's such a difference between being strict and being structured. And her dad was trying to understand it. She goes, well, let me tell you about what my mom does. And it just made me feel so good that then actually he listened. It meant a lot to me that we could have that conversation and I could hear her perspective on some of the stuff that hadn't been the easiest. I can remember a very unexpected time where we were post-adoption, and we have to go to several meetings after that before finalization, and you have to keep meeting with your adoption counselor. And since we're far away from our agency, we would drive up and then spend the night and then come back for a 2-hour meeting. And I remember looking across the hotel room and seeing my husband and my daughter asleep and realizing that in my life, I never expected this to happen. I never really believed that I would be a mom of 3. Many of us in life have this image of what we would achieve in our lives, and I had ideas about my career and about education, but you know, I just assumed that I'd be able to be a mom, not wanting to settle for anybody in my life. It wasn't an easy path for me, and that I remember writing this little piece out for myself for a journal about how I recognized right then when I was seeing Lauren and my husband asleep that how much willpower it takes for some of us as women to achieve what we want, and that I had to work really hard to leave my family and try to find my own space. I moved to California and started over, and so didn't expect that I'd even be able to create a home, and then to be recognizing 8 years ago that I had pushed and shoved to establish a career and get my master's degree and figure myself out, feel strong again as a person and as a woman, and then decide on my own to have my daughter. And I'm not meaning as a martyr, I mean just really saying to myself, I'm so glad that I didn't stop pushing. And there's several role models, either national role models or personal role models I have, who really helped me recognize that I can have anything I want to. There will be things I'll have to do to accomplish those desires. And then to say to myself, okay, with this one child, I'm not done. I still want to be able to get married and to accomplish that, and to, although marriage isn't easy, to stay together 20 some years so far, and then later to say, I think we want to adopt, and then to find out in my 40s, can I do that? And find out, yes, I can. And then shocking everybody in my 50s and saying, you know what? At the time I was 55, I think. And our agency said it doesn't really matter if the expectant mom is comfortable. And then the expectant mom we eventually met when it's almost 58, somewhere along in there, she said wanted a young couple. And said, no, I think you're really fine. She says her story to me was, I hope I look as good and act as young as you are when I get there. And I was like, okay, there's a compliment in there somewhere. When I realized that it isn't typical to have birthed a child in your late 30s, adopted in your 40s, adopted in your 50s. I don't see it as something that is like a hero badge. I see it as me deciding in my life that what I dreamed of in my life I could really have. I just need to work at it. And I definitely can now appreciate and continue to work on those relationships, because you're never, as a mom, you're never done. You know, your children change. Your work as a mom is never, that image of my family is complete. No, actually, we're never complete. It keeps going if we're really lucky. Number one, I'm not a young mom. I do hope to live it to be at least as old as my mom, who's now 99. But, you know, I won't be around when they're all having maybe all their children, or maybe I won't be around when they have grandchildren. But by having my children far apart in age, there's a legacy of history and memory of a family that she'll be able to carry on. And that means a lot to me as a role model. And I'm not thinking when I'm doing things as a role model, but how daunting it is that I am a role model, that whether I like it or not, my children are either going to have to undo something that they've learned internally from me, or they're going to need to hope to continue it. And, as a parent, you can't. You have to be intentional. You've got to really decide who are you and what are you, and then seeing those reactions to people, or hopefully lack of judgmental behavior, or whatever in my children is really such a responsibility that I need to really watch. I've learned as a mom that it's not always what you say, although that's part of it. It's clearly more what you do, and your family, all your family, your children especially, are going to act on those things, those reactions. It matters so much to me that we can be who we want to be. That I love to do woodworking. I love to take things apart. I love to fix things. I like to be able to, at the same time, go to Sephora and get makeup with my girls and enjoy the colors and enjoy getting dressed up. And I want them to know that they can have all those sides to their personality too. That it takes to be a strong woman and to be a strong mother is hard work, but we can all do it. It's so important to me that my children have that experience and that they know they can really go on and reframe their lives as many times as they need to, but always have that core of inner strength and that core of home base. Lauren, I've been really lucky that your siblings have gotten close to me. So like the night before Lauren's wedding, her other siblings, their dad's family, that fairly young they got to know me, and even though it wasn't always allowed they could spend the night, it has happened finally over the years, and that's a really special role as a mom, because I wasn't didn't have a formal role. I was Lauren's mom, but like the night before their wedding and a couple other times we've been staying up late and all of us talking, and I sit there and think, I never thought I'd get to have this, to have Lauren's two sisters here and have us all be talking about things that they were doing when they were younger, and a couple times over the years that they've spent the night here or at our house. How cool it is as a mom to have that extended family that could easily have been a group of people that I didn't talk to because of the dynamic of that second relationship and all that stuff. And instead, that for them, it's all okay. That was one of my jobs, was to make it be just, I'm thrilled that they're here. I've had to work hard to become a strong woman. I don't think I was. I know I wasn't strong growing up. My self-esteem was not positive, and I didn't really believe I could do anything I wanted to in my life. And then now realizing I have to work on it every day, but they know that, and they know that they can follow through on the expectations they have and the dreams they have, whether it's having a career or not, being a really great mom or not, being married or not, but it really is their choice.